Death often comes in unexpected ways, but some cases stand out for their bizarre and unusual circumstances. In this video, we'll explore 5 more real stories of people who died in ways that seem almost unbelievable. From strange accidents to freak events, these are the stories that leave us questioning how such things can happen. On March 25, 2017, 25-year-old Akbar Salubiro left his home in a remote village on Sulawesi Island, Indonesia. He was headed to a nearby palm oil plantation to collect fruit, something he did regularly. His family expected him back that evening, but when he didn't return, concern grew. By the next morning, with no sign of him, they reported him missing. Villagers began searching the area where he had been working. Some recalled hearing strange noises the night before, adding to their unease. Later that day, a massive reticulated python, about 23 feet long, was spotted moving strangely near Akbar's home. Its swollen belly suggested it had recently eaten something large. Suspecting the worst, the villagers decided to capture the snake. With growing dread, they cut the python open. Inside, they found Akbar's body still intact, with his boots clearly visible. The horrifying discovery shocked the entire village. This was the first fully documented case of a reticulated python consuming an adult human. Though these snakes are known to hunt large animals, such incidents involving people are extremely rare. News of Akbar's fate quickly spread worldwide, sparking discussions about human-wildlife interactions in rural Indonesia. Reticulated pythons, native to Southeast Asia, are among the world's largest snakes. They can grow up to 33 feet long and are capable of swallowing prey whole, including wild boars, deer, and monkeys. Though they typically avoid human settlements, they sometimes venture into villages or farms while searching for food. While they rarely target people, they may attack if they feel threatened or see an opportunity. Experts believe Akbar's encounter followed a typical pattern of snake predation. The python likely ambushed him, using its powerful coils to constrict him. Within minutes, he would have lost consciousness. Once the prey is motionless, the snake begins the slow process of swallowing it whole. Its flexible jaw allows it to stretch around large objects, and digestion can take weeks. The discovery of Akbar's body inside the python left the community in shock. A video of the villagers retrieving his remains quickly spread online, drawing global attention. The footage showed the outline of his body inside the snake's stomach, a chilling image that stunned viewers worldwide. For Akbar's family, the loss was devastating. His wife, Munu, who was away at the time, learned about his fate through news reports. The tragedy left her and the village struggling to understand how such an event could happen. Reticulated pythons usually live in forests and remote areas of Southeast Asia, including Indonesia, the Philippines, and Malaysia. While they prefer to avoid humans, encounters have increased as people expand into their habitats. In rural areas, especially near palm oil plantations, wildlife often strays into farmland, increasing the risk of dangerous encounters. These plantations attract animals like wild pigs and monkeys, natural prey for pythons, which in turn brings the snakes closer to human activity. Akbar's case also raised concerns about land development and its impact on wildlife. Indonesia's growing palm oil industry has led to significant deforestation, forcing animals into closer contact with people. This increases the likelihood of unexpected encounters with large predators like reticulated pythons. Though rare, similar incidents have occurred. In 2013, a security guard in Bali lost his life to a python outside a beachfront hotel. However, Akbar's case stood out as the first fully documented instance of a python swallowing a human. The shocking event led to renewed discussions about the balance between human expansion and wildlife conservation. Many questions remain. Could the attack have been prevented? Was the python already nearby before Akbar arrived? Could he have escaped if he had noticed it sooner? These tragic incidents, though uncommon, highlight the risks of working in remote areas where nature remains unpredictable. Dr. Harry W. Green, an expert in ecology and evolutionary biology, suggested the python likely ambushed Akbar striking quickly and using its strength to overpower him. Once subdued, the snake would have begun the long process of swallowing him whole. Given the size of the meal, it likely remained in place for days as it was digested. While attacks like this are extremely rare, they show the risks of human-wildlife encounters in remote areas. Reticulated pythons do not typically see humans as prey, but under certain circumstances, they can pose a danger. As human populations expand and natural habitats shrink, such encounters may become more frequent. Akbar's tragic story is a rare but chilling example of nature's unpredictability. Though most will never experience such a situation, those working in remote areas must remain aware of the wildlife around them. In the wild, nature always follows its own rules. It was October 3, 2014, in Diyarbakir, Turkey. The city was preparing for Eid al-Adha, a major religious festival marked by reflection, sacrifice, and generosity. Families were buying livestock, goats, sheep, and cows for the upcoming tradition. But for 13-year-old Heval Yildirim, what should have been an ordinary day took a tragic turn. Heval was a lively schoolboy who enjoyed spending time with his friends. That afternoon, he was playing outside near his family's apartment building, unaware of the danger looming above. Inside the building, Heval's father, Mehmet Yildirim, was making arrangements for the festival. Since their apartment was small, he had no place to keep the goat he had purchased for the occasion. As a temporary solution, he decided to keep the animal on the roof of the 6-story building, where it would be safe and out of the way. However, the unfamiliar setting made the goat uneasy. It became restless, moving around near the edge of the roof. A small protective fence was meant to keep it secure, but in a sudden and unexpected moment, the goat leaped over. It fell 6 stories, landing directly on Heval. The impact was severe, and bystanders rushed to help. Heval was unconscious and was taken to the hospital immediately. Despite doctors' efforts, there was nothing they could do. The injuries were fatal. The goat also did not survive the fall, adding another layer of heartbreak for the Yildirim family. Mehmet was devastated and at a loss for words, overwhelmed by the incomprehensible tragedy. The situation baffled not only his family, but also the authorities, with one prosecutor calling it a case they'd never encountered before. An investigation was launched to determine if negligence played a role. Officials examined whether the rooftop was secure enough and if there were any violations in keeping the animal there. But no matter the findings, it didn't change the outcome. Heval was gone. His story quickly gained international attention. People were shocked by how such a tragic and unpredictable event could unfold. A simple act, storing an animal on a rooftop, had resulted in an unimaginable loss. Eid al-Adha is a festival that commemorates the story of the prophet Abraham, who was willing to make a great sacrifice out of faith. But in an act of divine mercy, an animal was provided in place of his son. For centuries, families have followed this tradition as a symbol of devotion. Yet, for Heval's family, this particular festival would never be the same again. The grief in Diyarbakir was overwhelming. Many knew Heval as a kind and playful boy. His sudden passing left the community in disbelief. Questions lingered. How could such an accident happen? Could it have been prevented? What if the fence had been taller? What if the goat had been placed somewhere else? What if someone had noticed its restlessness and intervened in time? These questions had no real answers, but they only deepened the sorrow. For Mehmet, the pain was unimaginable. He had only been trying to prepare for an important religious tradition, never thinking that his choice of where to keep the goat would lead to such a heartbreaking accident. In the days that followed, people gathered to support the Yildirim family, offering their condolences and prayers. The investigation continued, but no legal outcome could undo what had happened. The community was left to process an event that had no clear explanation, just an overwhelming sense of loss. Heval's passing was a reminder of how unpredictable life can be. A normal day, a simple decision, and a moment of chance led to an irreversible tragedy. As the festival continued across the country, the Yildirim family was left mourning a son taken too soon, grappling with the reality of a tragedy they never could have foreseen. It was June 2, 2017 in Wallace, California, a small town southeast of Sacramento. Deborah Bedard, 58, from San Jose, was spending the evening with her longtime partner, 57-year-old Richard Clark. They had been together for 17 years and often took relaxing rides through their private olive orchard. That night was no different. As they drove through the orchard, Deborah held 2 glasses of wine while Richard steered their easy-go golf cart. It was a quiet evening, just like many before. But in a split second, everything changed. While making a left turn near the end of the orchard, Deborah lost her balance and fell from the cart. The glasses in her hands shattered, and she landed on the broken pieces. The injuries she suffered were severe, and despite Richard's immediate efforts, she did not survive. Authorities arrived shortly after, but nothing could be done. Richard, in complete shock, was taken into custody on suspicion of driving under the influence. However, he passed a field sobriety test, and further investigation found no clear signs that alcohol was a factor. The California Highway Patrol determined that Richard had not been driving recklessly, and the evidence showed that Deborah's fall was a tragic accident. Officer Rebecca Myers of the California Highway Patrol confirmed that Richard's driving wasn't to blame. The turn he made was routine and there was no sign of negligence. Though initially detained, Richard was soon cleared of any wrongdoing. Deborah's son, Steve Bedard, spoke about the deep bond between his mother and Richard. He described them as inseparable and said the accident was an unforeseeable tragedy, not an act of carelessness. Steve emphasized that Richard was responsible and that their golf cart rides had been a regular part of their lives. He stood by Richard, insisting that his mother's passing was a heartbreaking accident, not a result of recklessness. Even amid his own grief, Steve defended Richard's character, calling him a dependable and thoughtful person. Friends and family echoed this, remembering Deborah and Richard as a loving couple who had built a life together. Richard was devastated. In his grief, he wrote a heartfelt poem in her memory, expressing his love and the pain of losing her. He described her as his greatest joy, someone whose absence left an emptiness he couldn't put into words. Deborah's colleagues at Ace Relocation Systems, where she had worked for over 20 years, also mourned her passing. They spoke of her dedication, kindness, and the warmth she brought to the workplace. Many shared how much they valued her friendship and the positive energy she carried. The company extended its condolences, asking for privacy and respect for her grieving family. Deborah's daughter, Melissa Quinones, shared her sorrow on social media, writing about the overwhelming pain of losing her mother so suddenly. She spoke of the emptiness left behind and how much she wished for just one more moment with her. Her words reflected the deep loss her family was feeling. The accident left many questions. What caused Deborah to lose her balance? Did the terrain or movement of the golf cart play a role? Was there anything that could have prevented this? These unanswered questions only added to the heartbreak, leaving her loved ones searching for closure. As the investigation concluded, it became clear that this was a devastating accident, one no one could have predicted. What began as a peaceful evening ended in an unimaginable loss, forever changing the lives of those who loved Deborah. Her family, Richard, and her friends now face the difficult task of moving forward. The grief remains, and the memories of that night are impossible to forget. But as time passes, those who love Deborah will hold on to the moments they shared with her, cherishing her life and the love she gave. It was Saturday, February 8, 2025, in Cotter, a quiet suburb in southwest Sydney. Rosanna Hashem, a 43-year-old mother of 4, was celebrating her upcoming birthday with family and friends. It was a happy afternoon filled with laughter, until everything changed in an instant. Rosanna, known as Rose to her loved ones, sat in her front yard with her best friend, Amanda Hancock. Their families were nearby, enjoying the gathering. As they sat together, they snapped a quick photo for Snapchat. Meanwhile, their husbands, Hassan Hashem and Yassar Hancock, were moving the barbecue under shelter as a light rain began to fall. No one expected what was about to happen. Without warning, a powerful lightning bolt struck a tree just meters away. The impact was so strong that the tree exploded, sending sharp wooden debris flying. Rosanna was hit directly, suffering fatal injuries. She collapsed instantly, and despite desperate efforts to help, she did not survive. Amanda, sitting right beside her, was also injured. The phone in her hand exploded from the surge of electricity, causing severe burns and fractures. She later lost a finger due to her injuries. The sudden storm had taken everyone by surprise. The neighbors, who had lived in the area for years, had never seen anything like it. Witness Rob Campisi recalled the terrifying moment. The rain had just started when a loud bang was heard. The power went out, and when he looked outside, he saw a large cloud of smoke. Hassan and Yassar, only steps away, escaped with minor scratches. But when they turned back, they saw Rosanna and Amanda on the ground. Hassan rushed to his wife, but there was nothing he could do. Rosanna's passing was a devastating loss. She was a dedicated wife, mother, and business owner. She and Hassan ran the Groomery, a successful cat grooming business from their property. She left behind her grieving husband and 4 sons, aged 15, 11, 8, and 5. Hassan later shared a painful memory. He and Rosanna had a tradition, competing to say, "I love you more +1," first when the clock struck midnight. Days after her passing, he found himself staring at their chalkboard, where they had kept score, a heartbreaking reminder of their life together. Amanda, though severely injured, was taken to the hospital and remained in stable condition. She later reflected on the tragedy, struggling with the difficult thought of why it had happened to her and not the other person. They had been sitting side by side, yet fate had chosen a different path for each. She remembered the moment of impact vividly. There had been a bright light and a deafening noise. The bolt seemed to branch out, and the force of it shattered the tree, sending debris flying in all directions. Rosanna's passing affected not just her family, but the entire community. Even emergency responders were shaken by the scene. For the children who had been at the barbecue, the memory of that day would likely never fade. Friends and family shared their grief, remembering Rosanna as a devoted mother and kind-hearted wife. Her friend Gemma Powell described her as a beautiful mother of 4, a loving wife, and the sole owner of her business. She had worked hard for the community and was passionate about animal welfare. Her life was taken far too soon. As the family struggled with their loss, the community stepped in to help. A GoFundMe campaign was launched to support Hassan and the children. In just a few days, nearly $18,000 was raised, a sign of how much Rosanna was loved. Despite his grief, Hassan felt deep gratitude. He was incredibly thankful for the support he had received. As he tried to process what had happened, he held on to the memories of the love they had shared. Their simple tradition, "I love you more +1," would forever remain in his heart. This tragedy leaves many unanswered questions. How could a brief storm turn deadly so fast? Why was Rosanna affected while others nearby were not? Could anything have prevented it? These are questions no one can answer. The lightning strike that took Rosanna's life was rare and unpredictable. If she had been inside, would she have been safe? If the storm had never come, would life have continued as normal? There are no answers to these what-ifs, but one thing is certain. Rosanna was deeply loved, and her absence leaves a lasting void in the hearts of those who knew her. As her family moves forward, they hold on to the love and memories she left behind. Nothing can erase the pain of losing her, but her impact will live on through the family and friends who will always remember her. On June 6, 2016, Virginia Beach was filled with families enjoying the sun and ocean breeze. Among them was 55-year-old Lottie Michelle Belk, celebrating her birthday and wedding anniversary with loved ones. The day started beautifully. Warm sand, crashing waves, and laughter in the air. But in an instant, everything changed. Lottie from Chester, Virginia, was a dedicated wife, mother, and community member. A United States Army veteran, she had served from 1980 to 1983 before continuing in the Army Reserves. She later built a career in mental health services and recently earned a master's in business administration. Passionate about helping others, She was actively involved in First Baptist Church Centralia, where she participated in hospitality and children's ministry. She also ran Simply Pink Boutique Plus More, balancing her business with her devotion to family. That afternoon, Lottie and her loved ones were near the ocean front, a popular spot for locals and tourists. The wind was strong, with gusts reaching 20 to 25 miles per hour. Beach umbrellas, commonly rented out to visitors, were secured in the sand, but the powerful winds made them unstable. At around 5:07 p.m., a call came into emergency services. A woman was in critical condition on the 33rd Street beach. Witnesses described the horrifying moment. A large beach umbrella, caught by the wind, suddenly soared into the air and tumbled end over end at an incredible speed. Hugh Martin, a worker at the boardwalk, compared it to a scene from The Wizard of Oz as it soared across the sand. Lottie had been speaking with children when the airborne umbrella struck her. The force was devastating. Witnesses rushed to help, including lifeguards and bystanders who tried to assist in any way they could. Despite their efforts, her injuries were severe. Paramedics arrived quickly, working to stabilize her before transporting her to the hospital. However, the impact had caused serious trauma, and Lottie was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. Authorities determined that the strong winds had turned the umbrella into a dangerous projectile, resulting in a fatal injury. The Virginia Beach Police Department launched an investigation, initially involving homicide detectives. However, after reviewing the circumstances, they ruled it a tragic accident with no foul play involved. The umbrella had been properly anchored, but the powerful gusts were too much to contain it. Sunrise Beach Services, the company responsible for renting out the umbrellas, stated that they had procedures for securing equipment, but this incident led to an internal review. Friends and family were in disbelief over Lottie's sudden passing. As a beach lover, no one imagined her day by the ocean would end this way. The tragedy sparked questions about beach safety, with concerns about whether umbrellas should have been removed or reinforced in high winds. Perry Boucher, the owner of Sunrise Beach Services, acknowledged the accident and assured the public that they were reviewing their policies. The strong winds that day had reached dangerous speeds, and no one expected such a devastating outcome. Lottie's passing left a deep void in the lives of those who knew her. She was a loving wife, a devoted mother, and an inspiration to many. Her loved ones remember her as someone who always put others first, whether through her work, church involvement, or business. As the investigation concluded, officials reaffirmed that the incident was purely accidental. However, the grief for those who knew Lottie remains. Her unexpected passing raised lingering questions. Could anything have been done differently? Should there have been stricter precautions in place? While these questions may never have clear answers, one thing is certain. Lottie's impact on the people around her will never be forgotten. Her kindness, dedication, and love continue to be remembered by her family, friends, and community.